So let me start up this one by asking, is Loudness War really over? Streaming platforms' normalization standards are trying to make all tracks sound even, but the truth is that even with normalization on, you can still perceive louder and quieter tracks. We at Mastering the Mix believe that every process you apply should be based on what sounds good for your song and genre. That's why our plugins are made to give you a couple of options to choose, or more importantly, stay competitive in comparison to other releases. As you may already know, limiter plays a crucial part on the final sound of your song. So let's talk about how to use it more effectively. If you think about it, limiter is essentially a type of compressor that strictly prevents audio from exceeding a specified output level. It also lets you avoid distortion caused by clipping. Although it sounds like a transparent utility tool, you can also shape the sound by increasing loudness and making your mix more cohesive. This all is possible by controlling three main parameters: dynamic range, LUFS and peak. And since I already mentioned the second one, let's focus on that first. LUFS meters consider how human ears perceive loudness across different frequencies. It's a more accurate representation of how loud your track is for your listener. Many producers brag or joke about achieving obnoxious LUFS levels, but they usually talk about short-term LUFS. It measures short periods and loudness changes. Integrated LUFS measures perceived loudness of an entire track, with all changes inside arrangement like quieter bridge or super loud chorus or drop. Dynamic range means the difference between the loudest and quietest sounds. In mastering, dynamic range gives you clues about how much compression and limiting has been used. To make it short, greater dynamic range means less compression and less overall loudness. The smaller it gets, the louder and more compressed your track is. Peak level is pretty self-explanatory, even for beginners in audio world, but you need to remember that the loudness doesn't depend on peak. You can have a quiet track that is still hitting 0 dB. Now, how to apply this knowledge and practice while using limiter? I have a track which I already mixed in terms of tonality and dynamics. Let's set up a limiter and use levels to analyze everything I'm about to do. The quickest way to get the right settings is to define the loudness targets, and my first take is gonna be loud Spotify master. It already suggests me to reduce ceiling to -2, and now all I have to do is to click analyze and play the section. After analyzing, limiter gets you suggestions based on your signal. Seems like I can allow more transients to pass through with slower attack setting. The result will be punchier, and with a track like that, that's what I was looking for. Link knob is all about the width of your master. Values close to 100% maintain stereo image, while the lower you get, the wider and punchier your master will be. After bringing the gain up to suggested range, the results are in. I got quite competitive LUFS range in terms of Spotify standards, a peak level that surely won't cause any clipping, and, well, a dynamic range which is on the edge of my target. But that's where you need to take genre-specific standards into account. If we take a look at my reference track dynamic range, I could push my one even more, not to mention how big of a difference there is in LUFS levels. And you know what? Let's check how far I can push this track and still make it sound good. But first, there are a lot of you watching our videos and not subscribing to our channel. That's totally fine, but just imagine having mixing and mastering tips always on your feed. All it takes is to click that subscribe button to never miss our new videos, both long and short ones focused on improving your mixing and mastering skills. So if I will switch the panel to get a variation and choose crazy loud targets, the difference is already noticeable in the ceiling, and now once again hit analyze and follow the suggestions. If you want to push your master even higher, you can try two types of processing. First one is integrated in our limiter. The energy slider introduces harmonic distortion. Adding harmonics results in higher perceived loudness without drastically changing the peak level. Once you use it, you need to click analyze again since it changes the input signal. Second one is about controlling peaks even more. As you can see, with a limiter, I'm reducing close to 9 dB of gain, which means the limiter has a lot of peaks to handle. While it still sounds transparent, you can reduce the amount of peaks going into limiter by using clipper before it. I hope that the knowledge you get from this video will help you to understand the limiting process even more and encourage you to experiment with different loudness targets depending on your genre or mix you're currently working on. Staying competitive is not always about being louder than others. This drum and bass track was made to sound great while mastered as loud as possible, but just remember you can have more exciting results by focusing on higher dynamic range or cleaner sound. Don't forget to try our plugins for free on masteringthemix.com and see you in the next video.